The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem by Dr. Nathaniel Branden. You can get this book for free with a trial of Audible using the link in the description of this video. Subscribe for more summaries. Pillar number 1. The practice of living consciously. Branden brings this one up repeatedly throughout the book, and this is understandable, as you quite literally need to live consciously to act consciously. He offers a basic yet truly effective tip for ensuring you live in the moment. Finish every sentence you start, and never leave any one of them hanging. According to Branden, you first need to train yourself to live consciously so as to be deliberate enough to take up the other pillars of self-esteem. He emphasizes that while it is a bit of fun to live in your own head, it is hard to develop self-esteem that way. You require stepping out of that dynamic and living consciously so that you can relate better to the world. Pillar number 2. The practice of self-acceptance. Humans have a deeply defined need for self-acceptance. Branden makes this clear from the beginning. Branden insists that all too often, people are not quite as afraid of their shortcomings as they are of their massive potential. He says that shortcomings are easier to acknowledge and swallow than the huge potential that lies within us. He writes, it is possible to run not only from our dark side, but also from our bright side. Run from anything that threatens to distinguish us, make us stand out, or make us stand alone, no matter how positively this is. We can run away from things that call for the proper awakening of the hero within us, or that ask that we punch through to a higher level of knowing and consciousness, and in so doing, access a higher ground of integrity. The most serious crime that we commit against ourselves is not denying or wholly disowning our shortcomings, but rather denying or disowning our greatness, because the latter frightens us. Perhaps we are so afraid of the greatness that we are capable of, as it reminds us that we have failed to do enough to raise our standard. We have chosen to give in to our circumstances, rather than striving to deliberately influence them and change them so that they benefit us. The initial steps of healing and steady growth are awareness and acceptance, consciousness and integration. Pillar number 3. The practice of self-responsibility. Branden makes it clear that as long as you are blessed with the gifts of life and self-awareness, then you have to pull your own weight. You need to practice self-responsibility. He makes it clear that when you are able to respond to the challenges of life as a healthy, autonomous human being and not as a victim, then you are responsible. When you move away from blaming other people or circumstances for your challenges, then you succeed at being responsible. This in turn builds your self-esteem. Pillar number 4. The practice of self-assertiveness. Branden notes practicing self-assertiveness is living authentically and acting and speaking from your innermost feelings and convictions. This should be a way of life, and at its very base, a rule. Branden goes on, Warren Bennis, the founding chairman of the Leadership Institute at the University of Southern California and a pioneer in the contemporary field of leadership studies, says that the basic passion in the very best leaders he has had the opportunity to study is for self-expression. Their work at its very core is a vehicle for self-actualization. Their prime desire is to bring who they are into reality. Pillar number 5. The practice of living purposefully. Branden explains that to live purposefully is to use our powers to attain goals that we have chosen. Goals should be personal, such as those of studying, starting a new business, raising a family, solving scientific problems, building a vacation home, and sustaining balance in a happy, romantic relationship. He makes it clear that it is your goals that keep you in forward motion. What are your goals? What things deeply inspire you? He makes it clear that these things, rather than being things that you think would impress your peers, are things that deeply resonate with your ideals and values. Pillar number 6. The practice of personal integrity. Without personal integrity, every other pillar becomes void. The preceding practices may hold firm for a while, but they would disintegrate without this. He writes, integrity is the integration of convictions, ideals, beliefs, standards, and behavior. When our behavior syncs with the values that we profess, when our ideals match up with our practices, then we have integrity. Do your convictions, ideals, standards, beliefs, and behavior line up? They should. Do you have a clear sense of what your convictions, ideals, beliefs, and standards are, so that you are able to use them as a basis for gauging how you are doing? If not, Branden advises that you get to work immediately, or you will never be fulfilled.